What I saw wasn't human.
Oh my God!
It was very tall. What's more, it saw me. This thing.
Rawhead Rex.
Hi and welcome to a very fun and special episode of Rap Chat. I'm honoured to be sitting opposite John Olohan, who you might remember from such roles as Father Ted and Glen Rowe and The Butcher Boy and lengthy theatre career. But we're mainly here to talk about Rawhead Rex, an Irish filmed horror movie from the mid to late 80s, which has since developed a cult following, I would say, playing to packed out cinemas like the Lighthouse, to new legions of fans. So, John, I have so much to ask you. First up, are you a horror fan yourself?
Well, I used to be. My father used to bring me to horror movies. The first thing I remember, and I still have memories of the things I saw on the screen, was The Thing. The first version, and I will never forget the end of it where they electrocute the thing, and like it kept me awake for not nights but for months. As a kid, and he used to love and love the whole and telling scary stories, and there was nothing that gave him better joy than scaring the life out of people.
How old were you when you saw The Thing?
Oh, nice. I must have been about 5 or 6. So
Parenting style is different back then.
Yes, it was. It was very different. But since then, and then I used to when a horror movie would come to the local cinema, I'd get so excited, and then of course go to the cinema and then be scared out of my life. Not at what I saw, but at the anticipation of it, and how scared I might get. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I spend the whole movie with my hands over my eyes.
And about Rawhead Rex, where were you in your career
I was,
and your life?
I was, in the young Abbey at the time, and films in Ireland were few and far between at the time. And when they did come in, if you got a part in the film, you were well paid for it, number one. And number two, it was, great fun. And it's such an unusual thing to be involved in. It was around the time of Excalibur and, that where films came in and it was big news, you know what I mean? Now, this was, it wasn't like on the same scale as Excalibur. It was more like, it was a lower budget movie, but it was still in all, a movie, being made, and it was being made it was made all around Rathfarnham and around Bray and up around Kiltiernan and all around there.
Near the Hellfire Club, was it right there?
Yeah, up around where's that? Oh, I can't think of the name of the place now. Up the Dublin Mountains,
Yeah.
and but near, not too far away from the city. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and how did you get the role? Did you have to audition?
I can't remember auditioning for it, but I remember getting it and being, you know, so delighted because my first child, we were not too long married, and we were living in Inchicore at the time, I remember. And Jack, our first child, was he was only a baby, like, and we were delighted with the few bob that because it relatively speaking, you know, the wages were quite good. I mean, much better than they are now. You know what I mean in relative terms, and it was. So we were delighted, and a big limo, you know, it collected every morning, and it was great because all the neighbours used to come out and see, oh my God, look, big limo outside Olohan's door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was great fun. I must say, it was great fun, and there was a lot of prosthetics involved, and there were when I hear people now talking about on television about, oh, we spent hours in the makeup room. I know exactly what they mean, because I literally went into makeup to put on the prosthetics, you know, to get everything matched up and, you know, kind of blended in. You know, it took so many hours to do it. And there was a girl, God love her, she was fantastic. And at one stage I had a scar reaching from my right shoulder right down to my hip, you know, right across my body. So all that had to be put on and, you know, done every day, you know.
Was it a tough shoot? There's so much outdoors and everything.
Well, yeah. Now, I hadn't very much to say. I had one big scene where I was, you know, chased around a farmhouse and eventually killed. But then, subsequently, I had to be, because I was one of the first kills in the movie, the monster dragged me around with him everywhere he went. So everywhere the monster went, my body went with him. So I had to be, or some part of me had to be, you know, around when the monster appeared, you know, in his den. So I was, you know, out quite a bit on the set. And
not to put too fine a point on it, but does your head get separated from your
no,
body? That's a different character?
No. The worst thing that happened to me, and it wasn't very pleasant, because as they say in this magazine that I bought at the time, which featured the film in it, it was the coldest winter in Ireland for a long time. So we were, you know, it was frost, like, you know, you're frozen to death. And I had to be, you know, stripped to my waist the whole time in it to show all the scars and everything. So it was, you know, it was kind of rough on that score. But I had to be, at one stage, the script called for me to be hung upside down over a big chasm, and like 3 days before this was supposed to happen, the special effects guy decided, I've had enough of this, I'm going home. So there was no special effects guy, and it was kind of dodgy, and there was a lot of, you know, nervous people kind of, you know, looking after hanging wires and things like that. So, but it was cold. It was very cold.
And tell me about the guy who played the monster. He looked enormous.
As far as I can remember, he was a young fella from Mullingar. Like, he was about 17 or 18, as far as I can remember. And he was about, oh God, he must have been 7 foot tall. Huge guy, but the nicest youngest, like, you'd never get him to be a monster, you know. He was genial, happy-go-lucky sort of, you know, individual. And but like when he was covered in this, you know, skin, he was like terrifying, you know.
Did you have to, like, just from practical point of view, how did he eat?
Well, he didn't eat, you know, very much, you know, unless he took off the head, which was kind of, he was practically sewn into the into the costume, and he at one stage we were up in what's the name of the wood above Rathfarnham near the Hellfire Club. No, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, we were shooting there at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Ticknock, was it?
Yeah, it's up around Ticknock. And it was freezing. And he was, I was completely scarred, you know. And he was sitting in the van at one stage. And everybody, there was a call, you know, a break, you know, okay, let's take a break for something to eat. And everybody went off for burgers and chips and whatever. And there was a big, you know, catering truck. And he was sitting there. I said, are you all right? And I could see his face through his mouth. You see, the mouth was open. So I could see his face when I'd look in through his mouth. And I could see, and he'd say, we'd chat away to talking to each other. I mean, you completely ignored the mouth when you focused on his face. But he said, I'm starving with the hunger and they won't let me take off the head. And I said, hold on, I'll get you something. So I went down and I got him 2 burgers and I cut them up and I tied 2 forks together and I fed. But somebody was passing by and they saw this guy all cut up, feeding the monster with big lumps of meat. And they went, holy God, what's going on?
Amazing.
And I have photographs of that event somewhere and I can't locate them at all. I don't know, they're somewhere in the house.
And it actually had quite a prestigious cast as well as yourself.
Oh,
there was
yeah.
like Neil Tobin.
Yeah, and there was Niall O'Brien and Bobby Carrickford, or Bobby Carlyle, and Derry Power, and Vincent Smith, and who else was in
Young
it?
Hugh O'Connor.
Young Hugh O'Connor, yeah. He was in. He was only a child.
Yes, only a child.
And
Donald McCann.
Donald McCann was the first to be killed. he was the farmer who unearthed the monster. He was ploughing in a field and the stone fell over and the monster emerged and killed Donald, you know. But then I was, I think, the second to go.
The second victim.
Yeah.
And what was the atmosphere like on set? Were you guys optimistic about the film, or did you have any notion about?
We had no notion. Well, I didn't have any notion about it, but it was quite complex because at one stage I remember when they had a lot of special effects people around, and they had at one stage they had the monster eating me and then pulling away and then revealing me after the monster was finished with me. And they had 2 guys either side of me off camera with 2 massive syringes full of blood. And as the action went, the monster pulled away and the syringes went and there was blood all over me. I mean, and that had to be done several times. You know.
Yeah, and before like computer generated effects,
oh yeah,
everything had to be done.
Oh yeah, and then the chases through the farmhouse and then out into the sheds, and boxes had to be, there was no such thing as CGI or anything like that at the time.
And like Irish crews now have a great international reputation and constantly filming international TV shows and movies here, including horror especially. What was the attitude to Irish crews like at the time?
Well, I mean, the crew was great, but because it was, filmmaking was very, it wasn't a regular thing, and I suppose there wasn't a regular crew as such that I'm sure they gathered up whoever was available to make it. I mean, I'm not sure what the situation was crew-wise, but I suppose it was a bit like the actors, whoever was around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but it was great fun because like everything Irish, everybody saw the humour in it. And like, even though it was supposed to be, you know, very serious and horrific and, you know, people screaming, crying, the laughing that went on off camera was just so, I mean, it was, I'll never forget it. We had, you know, there was one stage where one of the girls had to run through the forest with her boyfriend. And of course, they meet the monster and she starts running. And with her boyfriend holding her hand. And of course, when she emerges back to the caravan park where it was set, there was no boyfriend, but she was still holding his hand. And there was all this kind of, you know, when she turns to talk to him, all she had was like that much of his hand. And they never told the rest of the crowd about the hand. And so when they rehearsed it without the hand, and when it came to the take, the hand came, everybody screamed and laughed and did everything wrong. And it was like absolute pandemonium, you know, hysteria. And we laughed for 3 days after that.
Yeah, that's seen as a highlight, the hand. Yeah. And did you, when it came out then, did you have expectations about how it would do and that kind of thing?
No, I never heard of it again. I never heard of it until Jack, I think it was years later, he said, do you know that film that you made years ago? It's become a kind of a cult movie. And I said, never. I never saw it. I mean, I saw it once on television, I think, at that stage, you know, years after it was made. But there was no kind of like, as far as I can remember, there was no general release. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard rumours, I don't know if you heard rumours, like Clive Barker is like interested in remaking it himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he wrote the script and he didn't fully embrace like the final product.
No.
So he's probably still fond of the characters and stuff. So will you go see it or stream it or whatever? When
I'll have another look at it. Yeah. I remember at the time saying, it's really kind of, I just found it a bit tacky, you know what I mean? At the time, and there was a talk of, you know, the producers, the American producers have their own people like appointed to do it, and the money people are the people who are, you know, playing the leads and things like that. And I didn't know what to believe because you know, rumours go around.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your experience in the Abbey? You were that was a huge part of your life.
Yeah, huge part. I went into the Abbey in '69 and into the School of Acting, and stayed there in the school for 2 years, and then graduated then into the Young Abbey, which was the theatre and education end of things. And then after that, it kind of morphed into Team Theatre and Education Group. And I stayed with them for a few years, and then went to the Irish Theatre Company. And I was with the Irish Theatre Company from about, what would it have been? About 76 to 80. And then I went into the Abbey for 10 years. And it was, when you go into the Abbey under an Abbey contract, it's play as cast. Well, at that time it was. You didn't pick and choose. You were given a role to play in a certain play, and you played it. But you got paid every week. Now, there were some roles or some plays that you weren't cast in, but you still got paid. You know what I mean? But it was great. It was because you got to play so many different, you know, types of roles, and roles that you didn't fancy even, and roles that you were wrong for. You know, it just built up your experience and your general
skill set.
Yeah.
Any favourites Any favourite plays you did?
Loads. Well, it did Midsummer Night's Dream, which was like an experience. I mean, the rehearsal of it was fantastic, and
That's a gorgeous.
yeah,
play.
it's a great play. But we did. Oh, you got me in the hop now. Da,
Hugh Leonard.
and then there was a crucial week in the life of Grocer's sister. Oh no, not that. The Death and Resurrection of Mr. Roach. I loved. Yeah, that was terrific.
Okay.
But there was
It's an amazing time in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah.
And then the Abbey does like Russian plays and like Shakespeare, and then Friel and the whole.
Oh, the whole gamut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really exciting. And another one of your performances that I think is still being talked about is in Father Ted.
Oh yeah.
Um,
The guard.
yeah, the guard.
The sergeant. Yeah.
You had some lovely lines in that. Do you have fond memories of filming there?
Well, it was funny. I was called out to do this new comedy series, and nobody knew. Even the two lads didn't know, because we did all
By the two lads, do you mean the writers?
the two
Stars.
yeah.
Dermot Morgan
Dermot Morgan
and Ardla
and
Hammond.
Ardla Hammond. They were kind of rookies in the business. And when we went out first, on the first couple of days I was involved in it, it was all the locations for all the episodes were shot first. So the Dublin ones were shot around, I think, out in Skerries somewhere. And then they went off to do the West of Ireland ones down in Clare and all the rest. But nobody knew what it was going to be like. I mean, and it was all unknown, do you know what I mean? And that type of comedy, I was just looking at one last night, and I'm still laughing at it, do you know what I mean? It's fantastic.
It's aged really well.
Yeah, brilliant. But at the time, nobody knew. And we shot, I remember it was about 7 a.m, and we were shooting the Vietnam scene, the one where they, will I shoot him? Will I shoot him now, Father? And that was like, nobody knew like what. And one thing I remember about that particular shoot was they gave the two boys Wellington boots, and they didn't give me a pair of Wellington boots. So I was left in a bog, up to my knees in bog water, with a pair of shoes on me, but the two boys were in Wellington.
Oh, they got the star treatment.
They got the start.
And then you had you've been quite fortunate, I think, because you had the staff run in the Abbey, and then like a stint in Glenroe that went on for a while.
Yeah, that went on 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah, no, off and on. And with the result, because it was only off and on, I was able to do theatre work as well. Now, there was a lot of people in Glenroe who couldn't, because they were so committed to Glenroe and they were in every day, and they couldn't, they weren't free to do any theatre work. But because I was just in for mainly the bar scenes, because I played Finn Barr, the barman. So I was coming and going the whole time, you know what I mean? So I was able to, the scenes I wasn't in, I was free to go off and rehearse theatre, yeah.
So you go off and do Chekhov or whatever, and then come back and do
Glenroe.
And then I read that you were in The Butcher Boy as well.
Very little, yeah. I was only a day on it, you know what I mean? It's all part.
That's an incredible machine to be part of. That's
But
classic.
I mean, when you're only playing in a day, you just you hit it. The ball is rolling, and you just go up and touch it and disappear back again into reality.
Yeah. Did you get a sense of what kind of film that would be, even in your?
Yeah. You got a sense from just the whole machine of it,
Yeah, and then just I think we're nearly wrapping up soon. We often ask guests what advice they would have for young people getting into or looking to get into a profession?
Well, I
like
must say,
yours?
I don't know how young people do it now, because when we were coming into the business, I mean, my generation, it was a very tight circle. I mean, it might have been about maybe 100, 200 people. I mean, even if that, do you know what I mean? And there were no schools as such. Let's face it, there weren't even agents, at the time. So it was a kind of a very closed circle. And there was the Abbey, there was the Gaiety, there was the Olympia, there was the Focus Theatre, there was the Project, to a degree. It was literally an open space. It wasn't really a theatre at all at the time. But there were very few venues, to get work in. So work was scarce, even though the pool of actors was small. So we spent our time complaining about, something has to be done, there has to be more work for actors. But when nowadays, I mean, the amount of work opportunities they haven't increased that much. Do you know what I mean? And yet the pool is huge. I mean, there's, kids being, pumped out of schools like Lair and Gaiety and Trinity, and they're just like every year, another band comes along, there isn't the places for them. Now, I'm not saying I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you can't have 50 theatres in Dublin because you wouldn't get audiences for them. But it's a difficult profession to enter nowadays.
Yeah, that's fair.
You kind of need, I would say, you'd need something else going for you other than now. I was very lucky. I went from job to job. I mean, those were the days where you could, come home and the phone would ring and a director would say, "Are you doing anything next Monday?" Do you know what I mean? I want you to play this part and blah blah blah. Will you do it? And you just go in the following Monday and do. Whereas now it's 6 months in advance. You know what I mean? You have to kind of know what you're doing 6 months in advance.
And the audition process is probably totally different.
Yeah. It's all, well, for film, it's all self-tape and, all that. Whereas before, I mean, it was, you went in and you chatted and, kept your fingers crossed and hoped for the best.
Yeah. Great. So when it comes to self-taping, do you think Irish actors are missing out because they don't get to meet the casting directors in person? Yeah,
to a degree. There's a thing about self-tape. You see, when you do a self-tape, you do it either in your bedroom or in, up against you take the pictures off the wall in the living room and you do it against a bare wall. You're in your house or you're, in a mate's house or whatever. But when you go in to meet a director, it's an event and you prepare a script and, it's a different experience. You're able to chat, they're able to see you. They're able to analyse your character, you know what I mean? And they'll see if they can work with you and vice versa, if you can work with them. And, it was totally different, And there were, funny things could happen, in that one-to-one meeting. And, whereas now it's kind of cold, it's just a self-tape and, you're just another number, self-tape number 1, self-tape number 2, self-tape number 3, and, oh, look, I like that one's hair, or I like that fella's bow tie, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel that it's like everything else. It's become a bit, automatic.
Line.
Yeah, an assembly line.
And a common question we ask in Rap Chat is, how do you deal with rejection in this line of work?
Yeah, well, it's always, I mean, it can be what did I do that for? You know, this kind of self-flagellation that goes on about, you know, why did I go in for that? Oh, God, I missed out on. You build up a kind of a resistance to that, you know, very early on, you know. And I remember my son, who was the baby in the Rawhead Rex story, I remember he going to his first audition, and I said, now, remember, they'll ask you to do mad things, and they'll probably say at the end, sorry, we don't need, and you'll feel terrible because you've exposed yourself to total strangers and they rejected you. I said, just wash it off, just go, walk out and like as if it never happened. And you just get used to doing that after a while. It kind of comes with the job, you know. But it is a, you know, sometimes if you stop and think about it at all, you go, I'm never doing that again. You know.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, John, thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it was really nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Really fun stories about Rawhead Rex, and yeah, we'll all keep an eye out to see if there's a reboot or a remake or something. That phone might ring again.
Well, I hope they don't put me through the ringer like they did in the last.
Oh yeah, maybe a lighter role.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, Joe.